This week's Shabbos Hagadol, there's a custom to read the Haggadah to prepare ourselves for the upcoming Pesach. There's a problem I always had with the Haggadah. The Haggadah tells us to project ourselves back to the time of Yetzias Mitzrayim, of the exile of Egypt. Now, if you're going to tell me to project myself back 20, 30, 40 years, maybe I can comprehend such a feat. To project myself back to World War I, that's even harder. To the days of Abraham Lincoln and the Civil War, that's even harder. But to project myself back 3,400 years ago, how could you wrap your brain around that? It's unsurmountable. I can't even fathom such a thing. And for years I struggled with this. I had students. I wanted to be able to relate the Pesach experience to them, but yet this problem kept on coming over and over again. How could I project myself into those times? How could I help my students project themselves into the times of the exile of Egypt? Then one day it dawned on me. I traveled back in my mind to my own Pesach Seder when I was a child with my grandfather. It was like I was entering a time warp. This Seder, which I was experiencing, my grandfather was passing down from his grandparents, from his great-grandparents who lived with him. My grandfather, who was born in the year 1900, fought in World War I. His great-grandfather was born in 1830. I was sitting at a Seder which spanned back beyond World War I, beyond the turn of the century, beyond the Civil War. In one fell swoop, I was carried back 160 years. Then it dawned on me, can I take this experience and pass it over to my students? I asked my students, how many of you have sat by a Pesach Seder with grandparents? Between 80 and 90%. And over 10% experience a Pesach Seder with their great-grandparents. I did the math. I said to myself, how many years is the generation gap between a child and a parent? 30 years. How many years is the generation gap between a child and a grandparent? 60 years. If I could take that link between me and my grandfather, the link that every Jewish household, they get together Pesach, the beauty that every single Pesach families get together from around the globe, and we could travel that link back throughout the generations, how much closer would that bring the experience of Yetzias Mitzrayim, of the exile of Egypt, to me? How much further back can I reach that I can taste the real experience? So I did the math. 60-year generation gaps. Me to my grandfather, I felt that directly. My grandfather to his grandfather and great-grandfather, I also felt that. He passed it down to me. I had that in one fell swoop. Imagine if I could take a picture of every one of those links. Me with my grandfather with his grandparents with their grandparents, and we'd ride that back all the way to Yetzias Mitzrayim. I'd have 60 pictures in an album. That's less Pesach Seder than the average person experiences in their lifetime. And it's sitting right in front of you right now. When you go to Pesach Seder, you're traveling back. It's a time capsule taking you back all the way to Yetzias Mitzrayim. How much of our Sedarim today have been passed down from generations we can't even fathom existed? How much of the original feeling, the sensation, the euphoria of freedom is still embedded in the traditions which we taste and feel and experience in our own Pesach Sedarim? So every Pesach, let's ride this time capsule back through the generations to taste, to feel and experience the beauty of Yetzias Mitzrayim, and take that and pass it on to our children, to pass it on to their grandchildren, to be able to instill the beauty of the Jewish heritage. That's what Pesach is all about. And with this, I wish everybody a beautiful Passover. A Passover where we can instill in our own families the beauty of Judaism. To be able to pass on that message, which has survived so many generations, eons, epochs, continents, to be able to pass on to our own precious heritage, our children, what the true meaning of Judaism is all about. Have a wonderful Pesach.